Hello guys, you're on the Stolen Audio Diaries. Subscribe and like.
Logan. That's all she said, just my name. No warmth. No tone. Just air moving through her lips, like she was trying to get it over with. We were standing in the kitchen of our house in the suburbs of Austin. You know the kind. Open floor plan, mismatched mugs, a little chalkboard with good vibes only scribbled on it, still leftover from better times. Outside, it was a beautiful day. Kids were riding scooters past the driveway. Someone was mowing their lawn across the street. Birds were making that annoying chirp they only make when you're in the middle of losing something important. And I knew. Right then, I just knew. She placed her coffee mug in the sink, ceramic against steel. A sound I'd heard 1,000 times. But this time it hit different. Final. Like punctuation. "I'm no longer responsible for your comfort," she said, her back to me, hands steady. No rage. No tears. Not even exhaustion. Just detachment. That kind of numb you only get after you've rehearsed something in your head 12 times and finally say it out loud. It wasn't about a fight. Not this time. This wasn't a passive-aggressive jab, or her way of punishing me for forgetting to unload the dishwasher. No. This was the clean slice, the kind of emotional guillotine that drops with surgical precision. I felt this weird split in me. Half of me wanted to scream, throw something, beg her to explain. The other half just stood there, observing the moment like I wasn't even in it. Like I was watching myself be cut out of my own life. Cleared my throat. "Are you cheating on me?" There was a pause. She didn't even flinch. Just exhaled through her nose like someone who had been asked an annoying question on a work call. "No, Logan. I haven't betrayed you." I wanted to believe her. I really, really did. I wanted to reach for that one thread and pull it tight, convince myself that whatever was happening here, this quiet unraveling, it wasn't that it could still be fixed. But her voice didn't carry even the slightest tremble. She wasn't lying. She was just done. Or maybe she'd already moved on emotionally weeks ago, and this was her catching me up. "I'll pack your things," she added, stepping past me toward the hallway. "I think it's best if you find somewhere to stay for a few days." She didn't say it like someone asking a favor. She said it like a manager letting you go with 2 weeks severance. I didn't even have time to respond before she disappeared into the bedroom, leaving behind nothing but that cold, ticking silence. The kind that somehow makes a fully furnished home feel abandoned. I stood there for a minute, maybe more. I don't remember blinking. The hum of the refrigerator filled the room louder than it should have. I looked around like I was seeing the house for the first time. That little toaster we bought during our honeymoon. The cactus plant I kept forgetting to water. The spot in the tile we always said we'd fix. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She never locked it. Not out of trust, really, but because she always said, "There's nothing on there you'd care about." And maybe for a while that was true. I glanced at the screen. "So when can I come over? I miss you." That's it. 11 words. But they slammed into me harder than anything she'd said in the last 5 minutes. The name on the message wasn't familiar, just Nico. No last name, no emoji. But the intent was loud and clear. And it had a timestamp. 2 minutes ago. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't say a word. My hands were shaking, but I kept them at my sides. I just stared at the message, hoping, begging, that maybe it was a joke. Some stupid inside joke I didn't understand. Maybe a prank text. Maybe spam. But I knew better. You don't say "I miss you" to someone's wife unless there's already a reason to miss her. I backed away from the counter. No big scene. No confrontation. Not yet. Instead, I did something I never thought I would. I walked out. I didn't even wait for her to come back into the room. I left the kitchen, opened the front door, and stepped outside like I was just going out for a walk. No suitcase. No dramatic goodbye. I just walked. And outside, the world was still so damn normal. A kid across the street waved at me. Someone's dog barked like I was the mailman. The sun was shining. The sky was blue. And my marriage had just flatlined inside that perfect little beige house. But nobody else knew. And for the first time, I didn't either. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, parked 3 blocks from our house like some kind of fugitive. My hands were still buzzing, that post-shock adrenaline come down. I hadn't even started the engine. I just sat there, keys in the ignition, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror like it might tell me what to do. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe Nico was just a friend. Maybe he was joking. Maybe I was overreacting. But let's be honest. Nobody sends a message like, "So, when can I come over? I miss you." Unless something's going on. Nobody misses a married woman in that particular way unless she's given them a reason to. Still, I couldn't get myself to say it out loud. She's cheating on me. My mouth physically wouldn't form the words. Felt too heavy, too shameful. Like admitting it would make it real, irreversible. So I sat there, and the memories started lining up, one after the other, like dominoes just waiting for a push. The late work nights. That's where it started. Around 6 months back. Client dinners, she said. Big project coming up. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was good at her job, driven. The kind of woman who triple-checked her calendars and color-coded her post-its. I'd even bragged about her to friends. She's K***ling it in her field. I'm proud of her. And then there was the way she smiled at her phone. It used to be cute, her snorting at memes, tagging me in stupid dog videos. But lately, she'd been laughing to herself and then quickly hiding the screen. Her phone, once casually left on the coffee table or the kitchen counter, was now glued to her. Screen down, locked, always on silent. She even started taking it into the bathroom. I noticed all of it, but I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being paranoid. That marriage meant trusting your partner, even when it felt easier not to. I thought confronting her would mean I didn't believe in her, and I did. I really did. But now I wasn't so sure. I thought about the way she'd started sleeping with her back to me. The way our conversations had turned into logistical exchanges, bills, schedules, groceries. No more, "How was your day?" No more, "Do you want to go out this weekend?" Just cold, efficient coordination. Like we were running a business, not a marriage. I remembered the night I brought home Thai from her favorite spot. Just because. I even got that mango sticky rice she used to rave about. When I surprised her with it, she smiled, but it didn't touch her eyes. "Thanks," she said. "I already ate." She didn't ask me to sit. Didn't open the containers. Just went back to her laptop and said, "I have a Zoom call in 10. And that was that. That same week, she forgot our anniversary. We'd made a tradition out of it. Every year we'd revisit the place we first met. It was silly, sweet. That year, she was too swamped. I told her it was fine, that we could do something the next weekend. She agreed but never followed up. I didn't remind her. And the craziest part? I still didn't let myself see it. I just kept making excuses for her. She's stressed. She's tired. She just needs time. I convinced myself that if I kept showing up, being supportive, being available, loving her through it, she'd find her way back to me. But she wasn't coming back. She was already gone. What hurt the most wasn't the suspicion of cheating. It was realizing how long I'd been living in denial. How many times I'd tried to be the bigger person or the understanding husband, while she slowly erased me from her life. The worst part? I had chances to leave. Real chances. Like that offer from Miami. A high-end recording studio had reached out, wanted me to help them build out a creative program. It was everything I wanted: sun, sound, space to grow. But Kira didn't want to leave Austin. She had her work, her friends, her roots. So I stayed. Told myself love was compromise. Told myself I was choosing us. I gave up a dream so I could pay the mortgage on a house that no longer felt like home. I paid the bills, took care of everything. I pushed my music aside, telling myself I'd get back to it eventually. Meanwhile, she was pulling away inch by inch until one day she just let go. I looked down at my phone. No missed calls. No messages. No "Where did you go?" Not even a comeback. She knew I saw the message. She had to know. And still, she said nothing. That silence said more than any text ever could. I started the car, then turned it off again. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I didn't want to run away from my own life. I wasn't going to crash on a friend's couch and stew in bitterness. Not yet. So I made a decision. I was going back. Not to fight. Not to beg. Just to talk. Maybe get the truth, whatever version she was willing to offer. Maybe look her in the eye and see if anything was still there. A spark. A hint of guilt. Something. Because as much as I hated it, I needed to hear it from her mouth. I needed to know how long I'd been loving a ghost. The house looked the same when I pulled into the driveway. Same porch light buzzing. Same overgrown rosemary bush by the steps. Same wind chimes Kira bought on a whim from a roadside stand, clinking aimlessly in the breeze. But everything felt off. Like the house had shifted in my absence, slightly tilted on its axis. And then I noticed the car, parked right there in my driveway, bold as hell. Silver. Clean. Not a neighbor's. Not anyone I recognized. My stomach sank, then twisted into a knot. I didn't even slam the car door. I stepped out quietly. My heart was thudding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I didn't know what I expected, maybe nothing, maybe everything. But what I saw through the front window made something inside me drop. She was in the living room, laughing, not crying, not pacing the floor worried about where I'd gone. Laughing, sitting on the couch with him. I didn't know who he was at first, but I didn't need an introduction. He looked too comfortable. One of those casual cocky guys with rolled-up sleeves and that, I know your wife better than you do kind of posture. His leg brushed hers and neither of them moved. 2 glasses of wine sat on the coffee table. An open bottle beside them. They didn't hear me come in. I walked through the door like I still lived there because I did. My keys still worked. My name was still on the deed. They were too wrapped up in each other to notice me. Her phone was still on the kitchen counter, exactly where she'd left it. Unlocked again. Maybe part of her didn't care anymore. Or maybe she thought I'd never come back. I picked it up. My hands were shaking, but not from nerves. It was something colder, deeper. I went straight to the messages. I didn't need to guess the password. I already knew it. She gave it to me once when we were looking up takeout back when trust was still something we practiced. There were hundreds of messages. Scrolling felt like unraveling a thread that had been holding up my entire life. Some texts were recent. Others went back months. They had their own little world. Nicknames, inside jokes, voice notes, photos. Some I couldn't bring myself to open. I read just enough to get the full picture. He doesn't notice a thing. So naive. I don't even know how I still live with him. He keeps showing up with those stupid romantic gestures. It's exhausting. Soon, I'll figure out a way to get rid of him. I just need it to be clean. Clean. That word rang in my head like a fire alarm. This wasn't some impulsive fling. It was a goddamn plan. A slow burn. A coordinated exit strategy where I was the obstacle she needed to clear. I felt like I was watching a movie of my own life, except I was the idiot side character. Clueless, oblivious, pitted. I stood there in the kitchen, phone in hand, while she and this guy sat 10 feet away, giggling like teenagers. I watched her lean into him, her hand casually brushing his knee. The same hand that used to run through my hair when I was stressed. The same hand I once held on a beach in San Diego when I promised I'd never walk away from her. I thought I'd burst in there, say something, make a scene, demand answers. But I didn't. I just stood there watching. Because suddenly, I realized something bigger than my anger. She wasn't mine anymore. Not emotionally. Not mentally. Maybe not for a long time. And nothing I said was going to bring her back. So I set the phone down, walked to the door, and left. Again. No slam. No threat. No line in the sand speech. Just quiet. I walked down the street until I couldn't hear the wine glasses clinking or their laughter anymore. I sat on the curb under a streetlight and let the cold settle into my bones. That's when the shift happened. Not loud, not dramatic, but permanent. Something in me hardened. This wasn't just a heartbreak. It was an ambush, a calculated betrayal. and I wasn't going to crumble because of it. I wasn't going to fall apart, or beg, or compete with some discount version of a man sipping wine on my couch. No, I was going to plan. Not revenge. Not chaos. Something smarter. Something solid. I pulled out my phone and started typing a list. Names. Evidence. To-dos. I needed a lawyer. I needed to protect myself. My finances. My identity. My future. The pain would come later, probably late at night when the silence pressed down hard. But for now, I had work to do, because she thought I was soft. She thought I'd just disappear, that I'd be the guy crying into a beer while she lived happily ever after with Nico the homewrecker. But she forgot something important. I'm not the type to go down quietly. The plan begins. The next morning, Kira texted me like nothing had happened. Did you find a place to stay? Just that. No question mark. No apology. No let's talk. Not even a fake attempt to pretend she cared about where I slept. I stared at the screen, rereading it 3 or 4 times, like maybe the tone would shift if I blinked enough. I didn't reply. By then, I was already in motion. I'd spent the night at an old college buddy's place, Brendan. A 1-bedroom apartment above a taco shop with a busted AC unit and a futon that had definitely seen some questionable nights. But it was quiet, safe, not full of ghosts. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer, turned on some late-night comedy reruns, and let me sit in silence. That kind of friendship is rare, the kind that doesn't need explanations, just space. When I finally spoke, it wasn't about what she did. It was about what I was going to do next. The first thing I did that morning was start compiling evidence. Not because I wanted revenge. This wasn't some scorched earth fantasy. It was about control. About not letting her rewrite the story and paint me as the guy who just left out of nowhere. I forwarded every incriminating message from her phone to my email. *TS. Dates. The works. I even organized them by timestamp, building a digital paper trail she couldn't wiggle out of. I knew Texas was a no-fault divorce state, but that didn't mean her lies wouldn't come back to bite her, especially if finances or assets got messy. Then, I booked an appointment with a lawyer. Her name was Angela Rivera, sharp, straight-talking, and the kind of woman who wore blazers that looked like they could cut glass. She didn't flinch when I told her what happened, just nodded, clicked her pen, and said, "Let's make sure she doesn't take you for a ride." Her confidence steadied me. I hadn't felt steady in days. Angela asked the usual questions: shared property, prenuptial agreements, we didn't have one, joint accounts, debts, anything in either of our names. I rattled it all off while she took notes like a courtroom sniper. "I assume there's another party involved," she said, almost casually. "There is," I said. "I have messages, photos, voice notes." "Perfect," she said, like we were discussing a grocery list. "You're going to be fine, Logan. She'll feel the pressure soon enough." She slid a packet across the desk. Legal forms, disclosures, intake documents. And just like that, it began. I stepped outside her office into the warm Austin air and felt still, like the spinning had stopped. Not because I was healed or even okay, but because I had direction. I had a damn map now. I spent the rest of the day closing doors, called the bank, froze the joint account, transferred what was legally mine to a separate one in my name, changed passwords, canceled the subscription she used but never paid for, removed myself from her shared calendar, blocked her on Venmo. It was tedious. It was emotionally draining. But every click, every login, every phone call felt like I was reclaiming an inch of myself. Later that night, I drove by the house but didn't stop. The lights were on in the living room. Same warm glow. Same silhouette of our hanging plants in the window. You'd never guess the place was hollow on the inside. That the couple who once danced barefoot in that kitchen now existed in radio silence. I saw her shadow pass by once. She looked like she was laughing. That did something to me. More than the texts. More than the wine-soaked flirting on our couch. Watching her laugh while I was out here, trying to figure out how to keep my life from imploding. That cut deeper than anything else. But I didn't let it break me. I drove on. I didn't text, didn't call, didn't even curse under my breath. I just let the distance grow between us, literally and emotionally. That night, I backed up my laptop, put all my music files in cloud storage, organized the recordings for a project I abandoned 2 years ago, the one Kira called a nice little hobby. Funny how she always said she believed in me, but only when it didn't interfere with her schedule. Now, there were no more excuses. I was finally free to build something for myself. And that, oddly enough, was the first time I smiled in days. There's a strange kind of silence that follows the fall of a life you thought was unshakable. It's not peaceful, not calming. It's hollow, like being in a room after the music cuts off. No sound, no rhythm, just the ringing in your ears from everything that used to be there. That's what it felt like waking up on Brendan's futon the next morning. The sun leaked through a cracked blind, and I could hear the taco shop downstairs prepping for lunch service. Pots clanging, salsa blenders roaring, voices shouting in Spanish. It was all so alive, and I felt completely apart from it, like I was watching the world happen from behind a sheet of glass. I sat up, rubbed the back of my neck, and looked around. Brendan had gone to work. The apartment was a mess of band posters, laundry piles, and the faint smell of weed baked into the curtains. It wasn't home, but it was safe, and right now that was enough. I made coffee, sat on the balcony with a chipped mug and stared at the skyline. And that's when it hit me. She'd left a long time ago. Not last night. Not when the first message from Nico showed up. Not even when she stopped touching me in the hallway or smiling at my dumb jokes. Kira had been slipping away for months, maybe longer. I just didn't want to see it. Because the truth? I made it easy for her. I was always the one bending. When she wanted to change careers, I told her to go for it, even though it meant working longer hours and less time together. When she said she needed space, I gave it. When she said she didn't believe in checking in all the time, I backed off. When she wanted to move out to the suburbs, even though I was a downtown kind of guy, I drove the U-Haul myself. Every compromise I made, I chalked up to being a good partner, being supportive, being someone she could lean on. But somewhere along the way, I stopped leaning on her back. I stopped asking for things, stopped speaking up when something felt off. I let her moods dictate the atmosphere of our home. When she was cold, I bundled up. When she was distant, I stretched myself to close the gap. And maybe she stopped respecting me for it. I don't say that to justify what she did. There's no excuse for cheating, for lying, for building a second life behind someone's back. But sitting on that balcony, surrounded by unfamiliar sounds and smells, I realized I had slowly erased myself for her, smoothed out the edges she didn't like, silenced the parts of me that didn't fit neatly into her curated version of us. And she took that silence and filled it with someone else. I thought about the studio in Miami again, the one I turned down, not because it wasn't a good opportunity, but because I couldn't imagine leaving her behind. We weren't married yet back then, but we were close. I told myself love was about showing up, about building together. But I was the only one building. She didn't ask me to turn it down. Not outright. She just sighed when I mentioned it. Said she didn't see herself doing well in a city like that. Said she was finally getting traction in Austin and didn't want to start over. So I made the call. I let it go. And now I realized I let myself go with it. I gave up music. Turned it into a weekend hobby I barely had time for. I buried my passions under routine, grocery runs, mortgage payments, dog food pickups, monthly budgeting spreadsheets. And I convinced myself that being stable was the same as being happy. But sitting there, alone, with nowhere to be and no one expecting me, I felt something shift. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was done trying to prove I was worth staying for. That's what the last few months had been. Me trying to win her back without even realizing the game had already ended. Cooking dinners she didn't eat. Planning trips she canceled. Suggesting therapy she laughed off. It was all me, and I was tired. More than tired, I was finished. Not with love or hope or the idea of connection, but with this version of myself I had become the version that begged for breadcrumbs and called it partnership. I needed to find the guy who used to stay up until 2 a.m. tracking drum loops. The guy who once flew to Nashville with nothing but a duffel bag and a demo CD. The guy who said yes to crazy things and no when something didn't feel right. That guy didn't wait for someone to choose him. He chose himself. So I made a promise. I wouldn't chase closure. Wouldn't dig for more texts or go back for one final, dramatic argument. I didn't need her reasons. I didn't need her apologies. All I needed now was momentum, and maybe a guitar. Late that night, I returned to the house while Kira was still at work. I moved through each room like a ghost, collecting only what was mine. My guitar, my notebooks, my clothes. No goodbye note, no drama, just silence. I left my key on the hallway shelf, next to the little bowl where we used to keep spare change. The door clicked shut behind me like punctuation on the end of a sentence we both knew was finished. She must have known the moment she opened the bedroom door. My side of the closet? Empty. My toothbrush? Gone. The scent of my cologne already fading. She texted, "Where are you?" I left it unread. I didn't know her a scene, just a void. I filed for divorce the same week. My lawyer sent the papers. I also made sure Nico's boss got a little digital envelope, **TS and timestamps. Rumor was he got demoted. I didn't smile. I just moved forward, brick by brick, rebuilding what she tried to burn down. I moved to Seattle, taught music again, played local gigs. I walked the city with headphones in, rediscovering who I was. For the first time in years, I didn't exist for someone else's convenience. I was just me. Her Instagram stayed bright, brunches, sunsets, laughter. But I knew that house. I knew the kind of silence she'd return to. No music, no warmth, no footsteps down the hallway. Just empty air where love used to live. She sent a paper bag with my favorite burrito to Brendan's place. No note. A week later, a photo of a book I gave her, captioned, "Found this." I didn't reply, not to be cruel, just because it didn't matter anymore. I wandered with a camera now. **T photos of strangers laughing in cafes, couples crossing streets. I felt the rhythm of life again. Raw, unfiltered, honest. No performance, no expectations, just breath, light, and motion. She texted, "Do you hate me?" Then, "Did you meet someone?" And finally, "Do you miss me?" I didn't reply for days. Then I called. Just once. "Do you even understand what you've done to me?" I asked. Pause. Her voice came cold. "That's not my problem, Logan." That was it. That was all I needed to hear. Now I live simply. Music, light, peace. The betrayal still stings sometimes. Like an old bruise you forget until you bump into something. But I don't carry it anymore. Kira lost someone who would have done anything for her. Me? I finally found the one person I forgot to fight for myself.
Bye bye guys, thank you for watching.